right, that moves us to number 10, approval of the minutes of the August 7th, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion? Mr. Hogan.
I'd like to make a motion we approve the minutes of the August 7th, 2023 board meeting.
Do I have a second? Mr. Scully. Do I have any discussion? Mr. Satterfield?
Yes, Ms. Hines, I'd like to make a motion to amend the minutes from the August 7, 2023 meeting, employee grievance Exhibit A, to reflect a 3-2 vote and count my vote as an abstention instead of a yes.
Do I have a second? I heard Ms. Snipes. Mr. Satterfield, would you like to explain your motion?
Yes, I had shared with the board earlier that I had planned to abstain, and I didn't. I failed to, and I voted improperly, so it was my error. I apologize
Well,
for that.
I'm going to clarify what you said. What you actually did abstain. That motion was reflective of an employee grievance hearing. Mr. Satterfield did not participate. He was not in the room at that time, and we typically do employment matters and when I call for A, and we switched that around this time because of the special hearing, and I think I stared him down to vote yes, but I wasn't. I'm going to take some blame on that one because it just wasn't a typical vote. And then afterwards we realized, wait a minute, he wasn't even there. So that was just an honest mistake, and probably I apologize for that. Mr. Satterfield.
Thank you, and I apologize for my error.
Any discussion? All right, I'll call for the vote on the amendment. All in favor of Mr. Satterfield's amendment? That motion carries 7-0. And then I'll call the question for the original motion to approve the minutes with that amendment. All in favor? That motion carries 7-0. Thank you for that. And that moves us to item 11, public participation. As a reminder, before we start, the board welcomes and encourages public participation. We respectfully ask that you adhere to the procedures provided in Board Policy BEDH, public participation at meetings. Your comments should be limited to 3 minutes and must remain on either the topic noted on your sign-in form or a listed agenda item. Questions asked during public participation will be handled in accordance with Board Policy BEDH. And Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Bethany Lindberg is here to speak about trans rights and the courses and discussions in schools.
Hello. I only got 3 minutes, so I'll get on it. My name is Bethany Lindberg, and I'm a mother of a 6th grade student at Crossroads Intermediate School in Columbia, South Carolina. I would like to apologize in advance for the sensitivity of the topic. My son came home from second day of 6th grade on Wednesday, August 16th, stating that his violin teacher, who is transgender, forced the children to stand and introduce themselves to the class as, "Hi, my name is so-and-so, and my pronouns are he, she, or other." Then the teacher required the students to do an assignment on their Google Classroom where they had to fill out their name, gender, and pronouns. He also stated that children felt very uncomfortable around the teacher, including as many of them were confused about this idea of another gender pronoun outside of he, his, or she, her. They also realized that the teacher appeared to be a woman, but required the students to reference her as Mr., and some children were embarrassed when they accidentally were addressing the teacher as Miss and quickly corrected themselves. Some children felt that this was against their religious views. Some didn't know that there were other options before now and were wondering what it was. My son was one of the few that was confused about what other was specifically. I felt that this was indoctrinating my child to believe that there are more than 2 genders. I also felt this robbed parents of the ability to teach their children about sexual education and building blocks that they see fit for the child, or if they wish to exclude some said building blocks from their child's sexual education entirely. The same day I received a paper from PE teacher seeking permission, or if I wish to decline his sex ed courses, basically. My concern is that children should not discuss other genders or pronouns before they can identify their own body and understand what is considered a healthy sexual, reproductive, or pubescent life. How do you have to ask for permission to discuss their very own physical bodies, but no one asks for permission to indoctrinate our children with trans ideologies? All in all, I feel that the school board district has done a pretty good job handling the situation when considering that the teacher has been placed on administrative leave while they have conducted an investigation. However, after I had a discussion with an official at Crossroads Elementary, I felt as though they have resorted to promoting fear, if you will, to force the parents to keep their children in the chorus. When I requested to remove my son from the class, an official of the school stated, "If we withdraw your child from the course, he may not be able to get into violin next year." I feel that this has academic consequences for our children if they choose to be out of the classroom upon the teacher's return. I believe it is in the children's best interest to provide them with immunity against academic consequences by providing them violin lessons from an alternative source and/or another teacher, which I think I understood might be in the works. If that isn't a possible option, children should be allowed to change classes without academic consequences. They should also reserve the right to still enroll in violin next year, though they missed a very important building block in their violin education due to actions of one teacher. I also feel that it is important that the schools send the children's laptops home daily as they were before the school year, as parents are concerned about what content is now being issued to their children while in school. I do want to say thank you. There was quite a few people at the school that handled it very, very professionally, so I do appreciate that. Thank you for hearing me. I was nervous.
Thank you very much.
Jay Kilmartin is here to speak about the idea of creating a commission or panel to review curriculum.
I didn't know there was going to be a big timer that's going to mess me up. So go. Thank you, board, for having me. Thank you for letting me speak. Just watching the first day of school things, you guys have a big job ahead of you, and thank you for serving. Anyway, I'm here to offer a solution for the board to consider regarding appropriate and inappropriate curriculum that, as you know, has caused a lot of division in the district lately. A very nonpartisan commission to include board members, parents, legislators, and educators. The objective is to assist current legislators by fact-finding into school systems to see if there is an actual problem with race-based curriculum, lewd, vulgar library materials, and gender ideology curriculum. The commission will serve as a temporary advisory board who will dig into state statute, county ordinance, and local and board policy to determine how clear it is in regards to current material issues and discern means to amend, create, reform, or repeal them. Finally, the commission will make recommendations to the board and legislators with their findings. The commission will make the material examination process a more democratic process. It will take the burden off the superintendent and school board to keep it from becoming a punching bag for parents. It's curating age-appropriate content, not book banning. It's to answer questions and support our legislative delegation in crafting policy. Involving parents will put more eyes on the subject and remove the sense of alienating the patrons some of them have been experiencing. It will only serve the school board as an advisor. It will help inform the discretion of the school board, who have liability to consider while also balancing the education needs of the students. And the next speaker is going to speak on it a little bit more. You may have gotten a handout. If not, he's got a couple more copies. But thank you for letting me speak, and I hope you consider this commission. It's a good idea. It's going to include everybody, and it will save us from trying to stack the school board meetings with people yelling at the board. Hopefully that helps you guys. I think it's a good solution, but I'll leave that to you guys. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you. Looks like we're having a technical difficulty.
Yes, I'll go ahead and introduce the next speaker while she does that. Joe White is here to speak about creating a commission or panel for lewd, age, and CRT inappropriate materials.
Can you hear me? I can't hear myself. Is my timer on? Hello. Okay. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Ross and some of the school board members for having an opportunity to talk to you after I was here a couple of months ago. Dr. Ross gave me an hour of his time, and Rebecca gave my wife and me 2 hours of her time. If you ever got to know me, you'd know that I'm not a very confrontational person. I hate controversy. But I also believe that our job as adults is to protect our children. I believe that our job as educators is to protect our children. I was in first grade about 73 years ago. The problems were a lot different then. At that point in time, my community didn't have any trouble trying to identify what is age inappropriate material. And today we do live in a society that has trouble identifying what is age inappropriate material. Of course, I lived in a time where there was no discussion in the classroom about anything that was philosophical. All we talked about were the 3 R's. And somehow we survived that society. We developed some pretty good scientists and some pretty good engineers and some pretty good statesmen just worrying about the 3 R's. Now we live in a society where our schools are concerned with a lot of things that we weren't concerned about 70 years ago, and rightfully so. But I do believe that we need to find out how to best represent our parents in School District 5, LR5. I represent 41,000 people. I represent about 15,000 students. And I want us to solve these problems. I want us to identify if there are problems. Once we identify that there may be problems, I want us to solve the problems. If that means we have to have policy generated by the Department of Education, I want us to develop policy. If that means we have to have legislation at the State House, I want us to develop legislation. But I want us to work together, and I want us to solve these issues. I don't want 400 parents up here screaming or 200 teachers up here complaining. I just want us to solve the problems. So I beg you to help us solve the problems. I do have a resolution that I didn't write, but I think it's a decent resolution that I would like for you all to consider as a school board, looking at and deciding whether you think this resolution deserves merit. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you need a copy, I've got it.
Can you give it to Amy? That would be great. Thank you very much. And that concludes public participation. Thank you very much to our speakers. And that moves us on
Ms.
to,
Hines, I'd like to make a motion.
we don't, okay, but that, I don't know that that's appropriate at this time because we don't respond to public participation.
We're actually allowed by policy to make motions based on public participation.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I move that we support the creation of the commission as recommended by Representative Kilmartin and White to include multiple stakeholders to review materials for age appropriateness and assist the legislators in the development of possible legislation and the board with the development of possible policy.
Second.
So just in explanation, I appreciate our representatives coming here and speaking to us. I think Mr. White made a really good point that we need to come together and look at what is going on. We've said we need their help. I know in the past, the legislature has just gone and done things with respect to education. I think they meant well, but they didn't understand what was going on. And they're offering now to understand what's going on and to get input from multiple stakeholders, parents, community, etc. So I think that we should take them up on their offer and participate in that kind of endeavor.
All right, so I will, does anyone else have anything to say? What I will say is, I understand that there's been some information handed up here that the board has not received, that the full board has not received. So I feel like it is unfair to vote on a motion where we haven't received information. I received a phone call last night that expressed the idea of a commission And there was a little bit of confusion about what that entailed and who participates and how that functions. I also mentioned that, I absolutely believe that we all need to be working together when it comes to legislation that impacts education and what's going on in our schools. I also think that it's a little sensational to throw out a motion when we haven't been given the information that's been presented by Representative Kilmartin and Representative White. I 100% respect and appreciate that they are suggesting this resolution, which I have not seen, or a proposal for a commission. I just think that the only way that that's fair is for the entire board to see what was presented and to talk about. And we have a board retreat coming up on September 15th where we're talking about board priorities and policies and trying to work together collectively as a board on, how we can best address the needs of our students. So personally, these motions that make it seem like there's not support, it's very frustrating to me because that's just not the way that it is. We are given certain authority under state statute. I think that we need to make sure that we're doing this the right way. I think if we're going to create a commission, that we need to have our sister school districts involved, and it's not just District 5, because this is an issue across the state. This isn't just what, we've heard situations that happened today, that has happened in several school districts across our state this past week. So those are things that, we need to have more intentional conversation rather than these, out of the blue motions, or ideas that we haven't thought through together. That is just my opinion. Mr. Scully, and then I saw Mr. Satterfield, and then I saw Mr. Hookin.
I agree. There's no way I would vote for a motion for a commission. That this is a statewide issue. It needs to be settled at the state before it comes to us. It's not fair for us to vote on this without having any information on it. I would encourage you to not support this motion. If the state legislature wants to consider a resolution of that nature, go for it. Pass it on a statewide basis and then bring it to us, and we'll address it at that point. But for our purposes, it's not fair. I question the inclusiveness of that, and there's just not enough information to vote for that.
I will follow up on what you're saying, Mr. Scully. I don't agree with you that it should come from just the state. I do think that there needs to be collaboration. But I think that when you vote on a motion, you need to know what you're voting on. And there is information that has not been presented to the board tonight for anybody to even look at. And so I just want to clarify that. I don't entirely agree with you on that.
There are channels for collaboration already established. This is not, a commission like this is not necessary. We've already got advocacy channels and communication channels available for that, so this is not necessary. That's my point on that.
And this is why our board retreat is a good idea, because I still disagree with you on that. But at our board retreat, our intention is to have that conversation about, what our disagreements are and what our agreements are. So I just want to clarify that. Mr. Satterfield.
Well, I was going to say, I appreciate everybody's interest in this, and I really appreciate the manner in which you guys, am I allowed to talk to that? And the manner in which this was presented to us in a very non-threatening, in a manner as such that we really should and be able to use all our resources and work collaboratively together. I think a lot of the things that you're discussing and you're talking, they are on the tip of our social tongues, so to speak. And I think a lot of people have interest. And if we can do it in a fashion where we come together and have talks and we're civil and we demonstrate respect for one another, I think we can do great things. But I really appreciate the manner in which you guys came and presented your ideas. I do agree that we should have more time to digest it and see what the proposal is and involve. I'm all in favor. We do have, you know, a lot of community involvement with school improvement councils and parent advisory councils, but I just wanted to say that I agree with Ms. Hines' perspective on this, but I do appreciate the way you guys came and presented your ideas.
Mr. Hogan?
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. Share similar concerns, one of which being the time frame, the time commitment, and also the involvement of other neighboring communities, where these situations are not isolated to District 5, they're isolated statewide, nationwide. And from a collaborative effort, I do think there needs to be time to digest the resolution, to thoroughly understand it prior to us voting as a public body, but also extend the opportunity to neighboring districts, to where individuals in similar situations can have the opportunity to collaborate as well, to where it's not just one secluded school district with ideas and expectations going up a ladder.
I'd like to amend my motion. I'll repeat the original motion because the amendment's at the end. I move that we support creation of a commission as recommended by Representatives Kilmartin and White to include multiple stakeholders to review materials for age appropriateness and assist the legislators in development of possible legislation and the board with development of possible policy. And here's the amended part. And welcome Representative Kilmartin and White to present a plan to the board for approval. So,
Do we have a second, Ms. Barnhart?
Yeah, so this is not saying we're adopting a resolution, we don't know the specifics. We're just saying we support the creation of a commission and we're welcoming our two representatives to come back to us with the details for a vote.
I have a I guess before we take a vote, my concern with the amendment is still that Representative Kilmartin and White are on both sides of this issue. So when they put together this proposal, I feel like from the beginning it's not inclusive. And for me, that's an issue. And maybe it'll be fine, I don't know, because to Rebecca's point, we haven't seen anything, which takes us back to probably why I feel like a vote is premature. That's just.
I also think that we're using the word commission, but it's a committee, and I need to know like what the responsibility of the district is, and is this a district committee or is it an external commission? How, you know, who has like ultimate ownership of this?
Board members serve on it.
Well, and so I think the whole board needs to have that conversation. I think that there is a plan where board members are serving, but I don't believe that the entire board has had that conversation or been shown that information. So the motion, the amendment is irrelevant to me, in my opinion, because, I mean, it's just trying to circumvent the fact that we haven't actually seen anything. So, I mean, once we see it, I feel like it would be more appropriate to vote on a motion in general. But until that happens and the board talks about it, I just don't understand. Ms. Barnhart.
Out of question, since we do have, you know, the board retreat coming up and everything like that, we assume it was given to Ms. Amy, the proposal to pass out to the rest of us, for all of us to see it.
I'm assuming, but did you get something, Ms. White?
Okay.
She did.
So if we could maybe pass that out and let everybody read over it and kind of study up on it and maybe discuss with the representatives and whoever is behind it to kind of get some more information, those that aren't aware of it, maybe discuss it at the
Board retreat?
board retreat. And then
I think that is a fair.
to get everybody, because obviously there are some questions. I mean, I'm fully in support of it. I think regardless of I'm kind of confused as to what isn't inclusive about it, because it does include the parents and the legislators and school board members and community members to address these certain things, because there obviously has been in the past kind of two different angles of the stuff that we're seeing. And like I think Mr. Satterfield and Mr. Scully said, I mean, this is happening nationwide, absolutely. We see it all over the news, we see it every day. It's different severities and different things like that, but I definitely think it's more of a proactive approach, because it is happening in a lot of different ways, and we could maybe be a example to some of the other school districts. While I do agree that, I mean, we should do this kind of in concert with the other school districts as well. I mean, I've talked to people from other school districts
all over the state, all over the country, that there hasn't really been something like this. And if there was, maybe we could be that shining light to the other school districts around the state, around our community, around the country, to have something in place that they could pick up on, that they could kind of follow and implement the same things in their areas. Obviously, it would take some time and some, working through and the details, specifics and stuff like that. And maybe those are some questions that we could ask who presented and get those answers before the board retreat, discuss it as a board, because I think it does make a statement that it is bringing us all together in that same way.
I do agree. I think that when we are given the information, we're able to sit on it and digest it and ask the individuals that were involved in creating a resolution or any proposal, because I know that they spend, I'm sure that you probably spend a lot of time creating a resolution, because those are not easy to create. And any kind of proposal, the same thing. I'm sure that there may be things that, the good representatives have considered that we haven't, and we may have questions as board members that they haven't considered. And we may want to know what it looks like. How is the intent to, what's the intent on how it operates and who holds responsibility for it? If it was an outside commission that wasn't the board adopting a commission, then it wouldn't be as important for our board to really fully wrap our hands around it, because we want to make sure that we're doing things the right way. And that is not in any means saying that we're not trying to collaborate. I'm sure that we have people on this board that do not agree with each other on every single issue, and this may be one of those things. However, if we're going to create a commission, we need to be able to have those dialogues and have that conversation. And I think that it's helpful to have the information instead of just voting on something that you don't know what you're voting on. I'm going to call for the question.
I have one
Ms. Huddle.
I don't even have the resolution, and I want to just clarify, this motion is not about the resolution. It doesn't even have the word in there. It doesn't talk about adopting a resolution. It says that we support the creation of a commission and that we welcome our representatives to present a plan to the board for approval. So all we're saying is we hear you. You came here, you talked to us, you're offering a solution. I've been on the board for 2.5 years. I've watched board meetings for years. I can't remember a time that our representatives came to us and told us they would help us. They're offering to help us. All this says is we're going to take you up on that offer, and the offer is you come back with a detailed plan. It may be what the resolution that has been seen is. It could be something totally different. But I think we're sending a really bad message to our representatives and to our parents and our entire community if we're not even willing to say, yes, bring us back a plan that we can vote on.
I saw Mr. Scully, and then I'm going to give it to Mr. Hogan, and then I'm calling for the question on the amendment.
Yeah, thank you. I still don't think, if they want to create a commission, go nuts. They can do that. They don't need us. This does not need to be a board endorsed issue or solution. They can do whatever they want to, create whatever commissions they want to do and invite whoever. It doesn't need to be a board action. And not making it a board action doesn't mean that we're not willing to collaborate and consider it. The district has policy that addresses all of this. If we simply follow our policy, this is not an issue. They can create commissions to look at things and review things, but it doesn't need to be endorsed by the district. And I think, as Ms. Snipes said, I question, once you do that, it's politicizing these issues. I mean, they are partisans, we are not. So it needs to stay out of that arena. And so I don't think even if I just don't think it needs to be an endorsed board action.
Respectfully, I don't agree entirely with your argument, but I probably will agree with the vote on this motion. Mr. Hogan.
I don't agree with, I agree with the intent, I agree with the nature. I don't agree with the decision of a vote without properly vetting. And I understand, Ms. Huddle, where you're coming from with in support of, but, you know, it does have my name in there a good bit. And prior to me making a
This is not mentioned that at all. You can't, it doesn't. But no, my motion doesn't
Ms.
mention
Huddle,
the
you're out of
resolution.
order. You're out of order. Mr. Hogan was speaking.
You know, my concern is understanding the level of commitment from the district staff. It's understanding the commitment of what the district has to adhere to as far as, are we responsible for notifying a meeting if more than 3 of us participate on that board? Are the meetings going to be held on district property? Are we going to be utilizing district resources? And those are just questions, not there's a right question or a wrong question to ask or to answer, but it's those questions that I feel as an elected body of 7 that we need to understand all of the answers prior to making it. So while, you know, I'm not going to support your motion, I support the ideology behind it and the process behind it, but I just support being a steward and making sure we've checked the boxes prior to making a commitment. So I would appreciate it if we had an opportunity to thoroughly vet it, and discuss it, and to openly collaborate on it at a board retreat, and then, of course, bring it to a motion when we understand exactly what's going to happen and how this is going to work and the processes and the ultimate end goal. So I'll leave it at
And
that.
I'm going to call for the vote on the amendment. All in favor of Ms. Huddle's amendment? All opposed? That motion fails 5-2. I'm going to call for the vote on the original motion. All in favor of the original motion? 2. All opposed? That motion fails 5-2.